So on today's Resume Sage Critique video, we're going to look at Jennifer's resume. And I'm going to point out one of the biggest and most common mistakes I see senior managers and executives make when it comes to writing their resume. Hey, welcome back to another episode of my Resume Critique video series. I'm David Pinkley. I'm a 20-year insider and expert on the hiring game. For 20 years, I've helped companies attract and hire people. And for 20 years, I've been helping individuals land their perfect job. And so my goal with these videos is to help you land your perfect job, and more specifically in these critique videos, give you tips and techniques that you can feel like you have a resume you can be proud of and a resume that you can be confident in when you're sending it out to recruiters and to companies. So today's critique is with Jennifer, and Jennifer is she's got a great career, by the way. Jennifer has done awesome in her career. She's got a 17-year career as an auditor, an IT auditor, and project manager. And she has really, her career trajectory, you couldn't draw it up more perfectly. She started off as a financial auditor and then worked her way up through IT audit manager. She did project management, and currently she's a senior vice president of audit in a Fortune, probably Fortune 100 company. It's gigantic. So she has an excellent career track record. By the way, you don't need to be an auditor or an IT auditor or a project manager to get value from this video. Yes, this is her background, and yes, if that's your background, you're going to get great value, but a lot of my comments are going to be universal. They're going to be applied. You can apply them no matter what industry you work in, what discipline or specialty you have, or how much experience you have. Okay, so as always, I always like to disclaim the fact that these are real resumes. I pull them from online, but the information on these resumes has been slightly changed. I've obviously edited her name. It's not her name. I've taken off her contact information. I've changed the name of her companies, as well as the school that she graduated from. But the content, the body, the guts of this resume is indeed the real deal. Let's look at Jennifer's background. Her two-page resume starts off with a summary. She has the education and certification section here at the top of page 1. Middle of page 1, she goes into her experience, goes down to the bottom of page 1, of course. Let's see. Whoops. So let's look at Jennifer's resume a little bit closer. So Jennifer starts out with a summary section at the top of her resume, followed by an education and certification section here in the middle of page 1. And then she goes on, of course, to list her experiences, her professional experiences, which continue, of course, all the way through page 2. And at the bottom, she's got a couple of additional sections, computer skills and language skills. That's how she structured it. And let's dig a little bit deeper into this resume. By the way, structure-wise, overall formatting, it looks pretty tight. She's got reasonably wide margins. She's got a reasonably amount of sort of white space to kind of balance off all the writing. I will say, if we're being picky, and hey, that's my job, be picky, right? If we're being a little bit picky, there are some sections that look a little dense, in particular this summary section at the top and this large section of bullet points she has here. Essentially what that means is that all of this is not going to get read, probably, and all of this is not going to get read, probably. The hiring managers, hiring executives, recruiters have got limited time. They're looking at lots of resumes. At some point, they're going to start reading it, but at some point they'll quickly move to kind of scanning it, and then it will ultimately be just reviewing and glancing at it by the time they get to page 2. This section at the top, the summary section, obviously really valuable real estate. She uses a paragraph structure, so she's got long sentences going from left to right, left to right, left to right. It just looks really dense, and I know Jennifer has spent a lot of time really getting this perfected so that she can communicate what she wants me to know, except the way that she's blocked it out in this paragraph form. There's a pretty good chance that me and many other readers are not going to read all of it, unfortunately. I would recommend going to more of a bullet point fashion. It can still be a profile that's still relatively short, but I think if she were to bullet point a few of those sentences out, it would actually help a little bit better. Another thing I want to bring up is this education and certification section. This is unusual to see at the top of page 1 for someone who's got 17 years of experience. For someone who's been out of school for 17 years, this really should be on sort of the bottom of page 2. But for some reason, she has decided to put it at the top of page 1, and I'm not 100% sure why. I'm guessing she's proud of the fact that she's got both an undergraduate in business and a master's in accounting. She has a couple of certifications. She's a certified financial services auditor and a certified fraud examiner. All those are great, great skills. But it's a lot of space up here at the top for something that I'm likely going to see no matter how quickly I'm scanning through the resume. By the time I get to the bottom of page 2, I'm still going to see it. She could have actually maybe put one bullet point in her summary that would have highlighted these credentials. She could have saved a lot of space and allowed this section at the top to be a little bit longer. Anyway, I think the rule is roughly by the time you're about 5 years out of school, out of college, it's probably time to put your education credentials at the bottom of your resume, not at the top of your resume. Okay, so let's talk about some of the content that she has. I can tell you from reading through it, and I've seen a lot of auditor resumes. I'm a CPA, a former CPA myself. I worked at Ernst & Young or EY in Chicago for the first 5 years of my career, so I understand the technical language on a resume like this. She has a lot of technical sort of information in her content in these bullet points, both here and on page 2. The reason that's good is it lends credibility to her skill set because she knows what she's talking about if she's able to use those technical words inside of these bullet points. And it also gives keyword value to her resume. It's going to be easy for me to find this resume in my database because she's got lots of technical key words. I won't bother going into them because I'm sure they will fascinate you. So now some other additional thoughts I have here as we look on page 2. So this job right here at the bottom, kind of middle of page 2, but at the bottom of her experience section, this job is actually 13 plus years old, and she uses still quite a bit of space for this section. I think something that's this old, that goes back to the beginning of her career, she can probably shrink this down a little bit and give her a little bit more room now to open up this summary section at the top of page 1, as I was mentioning. So she can make this a little bit bigger, still capture the eye and the attention of a reader through a bullet point format, but not lengthen the resume at all. It will still stay within 2 pages simply by trimming out some of this old content. Basically, the value that she has here has already been baked into her value, certainly now, 13 plus years later as a senior vice president in her career. All right, let's get to why this is such a perfect example for things that people get wrong. Senior managers, vice presidents, senior vice presidents, sort of rising executives. This is a sort of a classic example of what people miss when they're rising through the ranks in their career and they're starting to move up into the highest echelons of management. So Jennifer's a senior vice president. It's a pretty high level role. And she actually reports into the chief auditor, like at this mega global corporation, financial services firm. She reports into the chief auditor. That's a pretty high job in just 17 years of experience. Again, she's got a great career going. But the problem is she's still very focused on a lot of small technical kind of, sort of achievements. Her resume, yes, has lots of keywords and lots of technical language in it. But she is no longer at a point in her career where she's going to be hired based on her ability to do the technical work. She's going to be hired going forward, I would argue. And by the way, I'm talking now not just as the resume sage, but as a global, experienced, worldwide headhunter. I would strongly suggest to Jennifer that the value of her value going forward has to do with how she leads. It has to do with how she's sort of able to think strategically. It has to do with how she's able to engage with the C-suite and so forth. And while it's great that she has all of this technical skill, she needs to be able to demonstrate that she can think on a bigger level, on a more strategic plane than just the specific mission and initiatives of the project she's worked on. That's what she misses. This is one of the biggest sort of things I observe as an executive recruiter, recruiting people that are making a couple $100,000 and higher and I'm taking them from one level in their career to the next level. Oftentimes, the people that I place, I'm finding them at an inflection point where they're ready for the next level, but when they send me their resume, it doesn't look like they're ready for the next level. It still looks like they're writing their resume beneath themselves. This is a massive takeaway point for a lot of people out there. There comes a point in your career where you have to stop, pause, look at the body of work that you've laid out professionally. And you have to sort of begin to brand yourself for the leader that you're going to be. And yes, you could say, well, that will come out in an interview, of course, and maybe it will. But if you don't put it in your resume, it tells me that you haven't taken the time to figure it out. And so by the time you get into the interview and people are asking you questions, now you're into just sheer ad-libbing. You haven't taken the time to reflect and figure out what message, what brand you're trying to project, what your angle is as a leader relative to all the other people that have similar credentials and experiences that you have. So if you really do think that you're going to get that this resume is going to get you the interview, and then when you get in the interview, you're going to espouse and project this awesome brand, you're kidding yourself. You're really kidding yourself, because if you haven't taken the time to prepare in advance, it's not going to suddenly become clear to you in the interview. In fact, I would argue you'll probably do yourself more damage, because you'll fall back on cliches and on things that kind of fall flat. You won't sound like any different than anybody else who also hasn't taken the time to figure out what their brand is as an executive leader and as a senior manager. The person who will stand out is the person who indeed did take the time, did put it in their resume, does understand what they're trying to sell, does understand how to position themselves relative to other candidates. I think that's enough on that. But this is a proof case for what goes wrong. Even Jennifer, 17 years, awesome career path. If Jennifer doesn't figure out how to encapsulate her leadership style soon, there's a chance that her career is going to start to arc flatter. I'm not saying it will. I'm just saying that she could get surpassed by someone else who has figured it out and does have a compelling personal brand. A couple of little proofreading edits I will mention. There's a number of changes in font size, particularly in this section here. Oddly enough, at the top of the resume, there's a bunch of font changes. It looks like it goes from 11 point to 12 point and so on. Those are easy to fix, but sadly, they're also easy to miss. Some of the date ranges that she has, I noticed, they don't align. If we're being really technical, these date ranges don't all align. It just doesn't look aligned and balanced. Also, her date ranges, and this is something that you should pay attention to when you're proofreading your resume. The date ranges, which she has, she's got a dash here and a dash here, but she has the word to here. There's no dash, it's T-O from here to here. She's got a couple of other small little formatting issues and editing issues that she probably needs to go back through and clean this thing up. I've got a tough grading scale. This is not an easy one here. You know, on the whole, I think in general, I could give this a B+, which is pretty good. But, big but, if she's going after a executive level chief auditor job, if she's going after positions that are the next step up, I don't think this resume gets it done. I don't think it gets it done, not compared to other resumes that I've seen, certainly ones that I've written. I'm probably going to give this more of a straight B. There are some small technical things that could be improved. But the biggest omission here is the lack of branding, the lack of leadership sort of projection, and she falls back on just a lot of technical stuff. Look, if she's going to be a technical leader the rest of her career, then yeah, fine, her resume is in good shape. But if she wants to take that next step, and based on the trajectory I've seen in the past, I suspect she might want to. It doesn't cut mustard. So I'm David Pinkley. Do you have a question? Do you have a thought? You want to challenge me on that? Do you have anything that you're confused about? Is there something I can do better in these videos, or a video that you want me to shoot that would help you more accurately? Post that in a comment below. Subscribe to my channel if you would. If you like this video, share it with a friend. Just anything that you can do to help me spread the word. All I want to do is help you find the best job that you can find faster and better, and help you with your resume as well. I'm David Pinkley, the Resume Sage, and we'll see you soon.